imagination, curiosity turns to idleness, and innovation gives way to an endless cycle of worn-out patterns. This is why our initiative was launched last year. Reimagine tourism in Greece was born out of the pressing need to reconfigure our approach to the challenges posed by our country's most lucrative, yet all too rapidly growing industry. To unite and imagine ways to turn threats into opportunities and learn from the findings of others. But imagination is only the beginning. As we move into the next phase of our initiative, we're here to turn our call into action through a set of concrete steps to address multifaceted issues supported by insightful research and in collaboration with thought leaders across a diverse set of sectors. The moment is before us. It is our responsibility to meet it by imagining a more responsible tourism into being.
Κυρίες και κύριοι, ελπίζω να προσδεθήκατε.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Margarita Purnara, and it's a great pleasure for me to welcome you in this fantastic place, unexpected but very fitting for this today meeting about tourism organized by eKathimerini and its partners. Reimagine tourism in Greece. So the objective is very concrete and clear. We want to invite once again top and leading personalities from the business sector and the tourism sector at large in order to reimagine the future of tourism. I think we all agree that the objective here, and we saw this especially in the summer when tourism was the hot topic of discussion, is a new roadmap, how the environmental protection, the protection of local communities will coexist in harmony along with the innovative infrastructure and quality. I'd like to also welcome our guests, remote guests in Greece and abroad. There will be live streaming in this event for both days. This place is not just the technical base of Aegean or the place to train all the crews. It is the first integral ecosystem in the sector of air transportation in Greece. It's one of the first green hangars of Aegean. It is here in Greece. It's one of the first green hangars in Europe. The rooftop, 25,000 square meters with installed PV panels that produce all the energy required so that this place may work smoothly. Aegean has prepared, to illustrate that, an application that shows us in real time precisely how the whole process takes place. You see the arrows showing concentration of energy, what goes to the consumption for the building and what goes back to the grid. So we're here at this place where we try to reimagine tourism. We would like to imagine it green. Before we start, there are lots of interesting discussions to take place, but let's thank the partners for this initiative. First of all, Aegean, for accommodating us in this very hospitable place that we see for the very first time in our lives. We may never see it again. It's not easy to enter such a place. Of course, AIA, I would like to thank AIA, Attica Group, Fraport Greece, Piraeus Bank, and of course, PwC Greece. Our supporters, we have Grand Bretagne, Grec Hotel, Resorts of Mykonos, Travelbees, Acknowledgements to the Association of Greek Tourist Businesses for the participation. Also acknowledgements to Metropolitan of HHG Group for medical care for this event. And before I call Athanasios Ellis, it's the English-speaking publication that we have. I'd like to thank Alexia Coroneou, our team of colleagues from eKathimerini who will coordinate the various panels, but also the company Diapason, because till very late last night they were rehearsing so that everything works in perfection today. Mr. Ellis, please, you can take the floor.
Καλησπέρα σας.
Good evening. Most Greeks, I think we agree that tourism is our main industry. So in this sense, we want it to go smoothly, and it does. However, we recognize that some improvements need to be in place. That's why this is the second year that we hold this event with the support of our partners who have a very positive footprint in the tourist industry. I think it's fertile and useful to hold a dialogue so that everywhere that we can see that things are difficult, that there are barriers and obstacles, we can just transcend them because tourism is the locomotive of Greek economy. So in this context, we're going to hold various discussions in order to showcase any problems that may exist in infrastructure, though we make a lot of efforts since there is increasing tourist traffic, which does not only bring about benefits but also makes us face many challenges. If there are the proper infrastructures to serve all these people. So eKathimerini undertook this initiative with the support of its partners, believing that it can be the locomotive of this process to improve Greek tourism even further. So I welcome you once again. And hopefully we will all benefit from the discussions, us as the media, but also companies and businesses participating, the Greek society, and of course Greece as a whole being a tourist country.
Θα παρακαλέσω τον κύριο Έλλης να μείνει.
Please, Mr. Ellis, stay here with us so that we can go now to the first session. The first session regards the mapping of the situation. So, Mr. Giorgos Arlapoulos, CEO of Palace and Cosmon, we know him very well from the various surveys, political surveys that he conducts in his company. Now he's going to share with us the survey titled, "What do Greeks believe about tourism?" This survey is indeed very interesting, dear George, and of course this is the exact highlight of this event tonight. So we're not speaking about politics today, we're speaking about policies rather, so please share your thoughts with us.
Θέλω να πω ότι είναι και δική μου χαρά.
I'm very happy that I have this opportunity. I had this opportunity to take part in this survey, to conduct this survey after the order by eKathimerini, and to present this in this exquisite space, the location of Aegean's hangar. Of course, this is a very big survey, the fourth Pan-Hellenic survey that we conducted along with eKathimerini for tourism, and we are going to focus on the summary points. this is a multifaceted relation that Greeks have with our core business in Greece, namely tourism. We have conducted 1,149 interviews, and we have set various general indicators in order to establish representation of the Greek samples, of the Pan-Hellenic samples. In the first session of our survey, we set some indicators, as you see here on the slide. The first one related to the importance that Greeks put on tourism for the Greek economy. 86% of Greek citizens recognize that tourism is very important for Greece, and only 8% says average, and very few, only 3%, say that tourism has not great importance for Greece. So this is one of the highest values of our indicators. The second question of our first part related the selections that Greece makes, whether they are towards the right direction. 48% believe that they are positive, though almost one-third believe that they could be even better, improved even better. There is 24% which that do not believe that it is towards the right direction. The next question, before you go to the next question, I would like to ask something. Of course, we understand that, as we see in the survey, more than 85%, 90% almost, believe that the core business of the country is tourism. I believe that all the answers show that we need to highlight further improvements in this area, in this industry. There is, however, a percentage that says that we could do better. What do you think? Does this mean that people believe that we can become better indeed? Yes, of course, this is a warning, I believe. We all understand that we are doing well, but of course, we can do even better. There is margin for improvement, and our survey showed exactly which ways to go. Still in the first section of our survey, we asked the respondents what option they would prefer. Fewer numbers of tourists with a bigger wallet, or higher numbers regardless of the money they spend. 54% prefer a big wallet. Only 14 say that we should focus on quantities and not qualities, while there is a 25% that are not yet decided. The fourth question in the first section of indicators regarded whether Greeks believe that we have excessive tourism in our country. 30%, 29% said, of course, yes. 38%, rather, yes. So I would like to comment on that finding. This 29% is the concerning indicator, plus the 38% of those people who are concerned, but not so much yet. I believe that this 29% is indeed an alarm that shows us that there is something to do to improve the situation. Of course, those who live in islands gave higher answers in this question. So this is logical, because people who are near touristic locations are more concerned regarding the excessive tourism. Of course, it's a matter of infrastructures, of course. I believe that the state can play its role here in order to assist, support the tourism professionals so that the challenge can be resolved. Nevertheless, we would say that the answer is wishing for a better wallet in the touristic flows is rather spontaneous. But of course, we have to consider whether touristic flows can be guided to other areas, not only islands. Costa Navarino, for example, is a very hot destination which is not on an island. So we could promote further more locations like that, so as to declutter the islands and upgrade other destinations in the mainlands. This would be a solution. I do agree with you, and I am expecting to hear those who are responsible for these policies to give their own answer. I believe myself that quality tourism is important for Greeks. And as regards the fourth question, I think that we can explain it in two ways. First, we have the objective indicators and the subjective thinking. In the future, we should focus on both these explanations, because we want to improve ourselves in objective measures, but we also want our people to be subjectively happier. Now, in the second section of our survey, we had some specific questions related to the thoughts of Greeks about the various dimensions of tourism. Let's see what are the concerns, the main concerns of the respondents. The first question had to do with Greek tradition and Greek landscape. Have they been threatened by tourism? 46% say that they are threatened by tourism. 25% average and 26% low threat. It is important to revisit the findings of another survey that took place before the summer, which the findings are similar. So this shows that the current excessive touristic period did not increase the concerns of people. The last question of this section regarding the concern regarding the high demand of rooms and the high prices for accommodation. This could prevent Greeks themselves to go for vacations in specific destinations. Again, we have rather negative answers, but here the findings are better in September related to the findings of the first run of the survey in the early summer months. The main concern is based on the answers of families or families with children, and not couples or solo travelers. And of course, as regards landscapes, of course, they all agree that we don't want any burden to the landscape or to the environment. I think that we can deal with that. We can give a solution to this challenge because we can be respectful no matter the way of tourism that we choose. And of course, this requires a good relation with the local communities and local authorities as well. Sometimes this might create conflicts to some local interests, but nevertheless, this is one of the bets that we have to place. As regards the Greeks who are concerned, these are 6 out of 10. They're concerned that the prices are too high, they cannot go for vacations. So we need to see how we can connect the findings of the first section and provide destinations and options for lower incomes. I think that this is one of the suggestions that might come out from this survey. Of course, I do agree with you, and I will not give you any examples because we do not have enough time. I am just going on with the presentation of the survey, and of course, we'll have time in the future to have bigger conversations. A last question in this section regards whether tourism development in our country respects the environment. Again, only 25% says that the relation is positive, while 67% believe that this relation is negative. And finally, are you concerned about the effect that Airbnbs are harming the urban and social life of Athens? This is one of the questions where the answers reached 44% of concern, 30% are rather concerned, so 74% are concerned about the conditions in Athens. In the regions, the indicator is a bit lower, but especially in Attica and Athens, the indicator shows that the concern is high. In relation to the environment, I do believe that there are many investors or hotels or Aegean, for example, if we speak about logistics and transports, they try to respect the environment. So it depends on how the investor implements their investment, their development. Of course, people are concerned. The whole society is concerned, not only the tourist industry. And to be honest, in many cases that we have seen that laws are broken. In these cases, we need to take measures. As regards Airbnb in specific, legislation has changed in order to provide solutions to this issue. I believe that we have many high-quality hotels and high-quality accommodation spaces. And of course, regulations have to be more strict because there are some neighborhoods where the number of Airbnbs is too high. In the last section now of our survey, we asked the respondents to tell us which is the major advantage of our country for tourists. So we asked for just one answer, and this is the graph of the question, of the answers. All the options are provided here, but of course we asked for just one answer, so this is the one prevailing. So this table here shows us that what is especially attractive for the foreigners is the sea, the weather, the climate, and natural beauty, and all other points are following the first one. In our opinion, the survey shows that our respondents' answers regard tourism as a high-value industry for Greece, and all the concerns are not showing the contradiction of people to the business, but their wish that for improvement. I do agree that because I have lived a lot abroad, and it is shown that it is the beauty, the natural beauty of the landscapes, of the areas, in combination with the cultural sites that are the most attractive. Culture is always at the focus of touristic flows. We see visitors from China, from other very faraway places who come here exactly in order to visit cultural sites. Of course, we need to be able to protect these sites and provide value to the economy. Many times people are concerned whether the touristic industry might sink due to overflow. But of course, we all understand that this is the core business of the country, and that's why we are here, because we want to provide improvements to any challenge that has been recorded. So this is the healthy skepticism that we need to hear and to act upon. Indeed, and in conclusion, I would like to show you which were the exact words that our respondents gave us in order to describe the attractions of our country, especially for the foreign visitors. Thank you for your time.
Νομίζω πήραμε μια
Well, I think we got the first taste of the landscape of what challenges we have to face and what makes us proud but also concerned. I think that this survey, actually this Today event will be very useful to the survey. But we can also use it in order to comment in the different panels. Let's see now. Tourism as a pillar of development of the Greek economy. I'd like to invite Arikos, scientific manager of the Institute of Greek Businesses, and Mr. Yannis Retsos, CEO of Electra Hotels, and would like to congratulate him for undertaking his presidency at the EOV Institute very recently. Let me present the two fantastic colleagues who will be the moderators, Ms. Thelma Hadjiathanasiou and Mr. Yorgos Lialios. Welcome. Congratulations, Mr. Retsos. Well, Yorgos, I think we could sit here and talk about many hours regarding the research carried out. Mr. Retsos, I'm going to start with you. We knew then, we know now, people know too, that tourism has a great contribution to the Greek economy. However, I think we can all agree that we don't have any proportionalities regarding seasons, tourist months, etc. Maybe we can extend the season, maybe we can decongest our islands. Well, the result of what you are describing is the answers the people gave when they asked about limitations. People who spontaneously believe that there is some overwhelming tourism, they know that from June till September in certain areas of the country, there is a huge concentration of people. So, yes, how when we have reached a point where we receive 34 million tourism, in 2019 we had about 33 million tourists and nobody talked about tourism. And now after the pandemic, when the tourist market was closed, and now we have this discussion opening, so intensified. So the question here is to keep this income and try to allocate it in more regions and for an extended season going from May till even November, December. However, still tourism grows spontaneously. It does also in other sectors of economy every time that there is a strategic planning, when you know what you wanted to do. However, the strategic planning comes as a result of the deliberation of stakeholders. That is, people participating in the process have agreed that they want to go towards this direction. So when there is a policy making, then there is an action plan established about how we go from here onwards. But this is not the case now. It has been attempted on many occasions. So we've been very close to achieving it. I deal for many years with tourism, and I've seen a real strategy only once or twice. This has been during the COVID years. But we saw with the strategy how good the results may be. We have a very good brand name, we have a very good satisfaction rate, we have very good impact. This is not just the conjecture, and this is not just a short time result. We must have a long-term strategy as a country. Each region, each municipality, each small destination should be following a plan and build on it in order to have some hope to extend the season. It doesn't mean to make roads a 12-month destination. It means that I have to use the products that I have, or I make more that are required. I see which areas can produce them and sell them, and then I find the markets where I can sell. So I have people in the country, not for 6 months, but 12 months in various areas, in a more fragmented, if you want, way, scattered people. So do you see such a strategy in the near future? I would love that, but no. Mr. Akos, let me turn to you. Since tourism is so important for Greek economy, doesn't that mean automatically that the country is vulnerable to exogenous shocks, such as the pandemic, for example? Well, thank you. I think that tourism is maybe the only sector, or one of the very few sectors worldwide that keeps growing for 50 years, with the exception of the 2 COVID years, whereas there's been a drop. For the remaining years, we can only see an ascending trend. So tourism is one of the safest economic activities that exist. Of course, COVID came up, it was unpredictable, but I think COVID is more the exception than the rule, at least we hope so. So all the previous years, whether that was SARS or the big recession of 2008 or whatever, tourism kept growing. It keeps growing for the last 50 years. So if we see the market, the tourist market, it's one of the stable markets, and the perspective is for this market to keep growing. So these were the 3 cases where tourism was impacted. Yes, tourism, recession of 2008, and COVID pandemic. These are the three cases in the last 20 years where we had a drop, but it was a drop for 2% for a year, and then there was full recovery. And even after COVID, within 2 to 3 years, worldwide, the market came back to its previous numbers. So you are optimistic? Yes. Okay, so let's go to the footprint of tourism. We saw from the research presented that there is some concern in the Greek communities, in the Greek society. Speaking of the future, we see that lately we have more local community voices protesting about things that have to do directly with how tourism works, about constructions, about losing part of the green environment, about a lack of water. All these issues that we've been seeing lately in an intense way, apart from climate change impact. So it's a question for both of you. How do you see the future of tourism vis-a-vis its footprint in the Greek tourism? Well, first of all, you touched upon two issues. One is infrastructure. Grid, waste disposal, all that is light infrastructure, and heavy infrastructure is roads, ports, airports, etc. So one is infrastructure and another one is constructions. Let us not forget that people who complain or rebel in certain cases are responsible for the constructions in their areas. So let's not consider that everything is the fault of the bad foreigners who come to invest in our country. What has happened with construction in Greece is a matter of many years, of decades, with unregulated building, arbitrary decisions, lack of city planning, etc. There haven't been any investments in the public infrastructures of the country. Then COVID came up and there was a boom with the 35 million of tourists coming to visit us after. And so with obsolete infrastructure and a lot of people, yes, of course, people protest. And for sure in areas with bad-tempered people, you don't have satisfied tourists. Especially when it comes to the islands, it's not just that the tourists, are too many. Islands are losing their character. Wherever this happens, if it happens, is bad for tourism because Greece, and this is measured by surveys and studies, and Aris can tell you more about it, the big competitive advantage is authenticity and the people, local people. So business people, local, eminent personalities, citizens, local citizens, by just doing what they do, if they alienate these characteristics, this is bad for tourism and for the development and the growth of that island. Our association is trying to do a lot and is doing a lot in order to operate by showing the right way to exercise a business activity. There is a risk, however, because there is no strategic approach. A strategic approach would have showcased the problems and would have proposed ways to solve. Do you think that there should be more limitations in Greece? We've spoken, we have spoken about that privately as well. It would be nice to have a multifaceted discussion. When you talk with many people from other sectors, then you see that sometimes you agree to more rather than disagree. But we need the space in order to say and do the right things. However, in Greece, things are always black and or white. So finally, we have establishments and installations. And I know that you were there in the plenary last Friday about the constitutionality or not of a law of 2012. I'm not going to enter into this discussion. It's a huge issue, but a simple question to you, to us all, to myself, is what is the signal that you give to an investor, domestic or foreigner, if you say that the court is going to decide on the constitutionality of a law that has regulated constructions and buildings in the country. It's as if you tell them that in 2036 a law might be abolished or changed and make you illegal. So this has nothing to do with the quality of legislation. It has to do with the implementation of law by the private sector, and the control by the public sector. A good law becomes bad if it is implemented in a distorted way. Mr. Eikos? I believe that SETE for many years now asks for urban spatial and urban planning and about the regulation of unregulated constructions or outside the city planning. We have detected hotels, let's say, that are on the coastal line, no road between the hotel and the beach, and they have a front of 100 kilometers when the cadastre has a coastline for the country 17,000 kilometers. So it's not an organized sector. Furthermore, in the framework of having a measure, keeping a measure, our proposals for the public deliberation for the urban planning and for the small islands, amongst other, we suggest 4 categories of our insularity, the smaller one being 200 square kilometers, and the lower the category, the stricter the framework with regard to the character of the island and the local character, the authenticity of the island. For those who are not initiated, you're talking about the tourist spatial planning, which is under deliberation now. And in this text, all islands apart from Crete and Evia are not considered as one category. Yes, what I mean by all that is that we have specific viewpoints about the measure, the rules, the upkeeping of legality. Yes, and about water, tourism is accused about lacking water shortage, but this is not the full picture or the entire picture. We know that on the islands there are problems, bad management, networks that are badly maintained with a lot of leakages, and we've had many mayors or people representing them that they sell the water at expensive prices. And out of the 32 dams in 25 islands right now, we only have 3 in operation. So there are so many things to do before we say anything else. And in any case, even where there is a water shortage, there is the desalination solution that covers 50 to 55% of the needs of an island. Okay, an intriguing question. SETE has submitted an integrated suggestion report. You gave us the example of the islands, but at the same time, some members, such as the Cretan hoteliers, were protesting because some areas in Crete were characterized as saturated areas of control. Tourism and the sector seems to react instinctively to something that leads to some limitation, to some prohibition. Is there any distance between sete and that? Well, to tell you the truth, I don't know what you're talking about, but I don't really know what the case is, so I cannot really comment. Yeah, and I don't know the case specifically. I can understand, however, more or less the question. People are spontaneous. Every time there is some prohibition, we always have something negative as a reaction to any prohibition. We've had some horizontal limitations in Greece in the past, like cabotage, with no cruises in Greece and the Aegean, saturated areas that were exempted from developmental tools by following criteria that were obsolete. So now the reasoning is that if there is any limitation or prohibition, we react. When we have limits and prohibitions, we cannot accept just the central government issuing some administrative decision without having deliberated or measure first what we call as the bearing capacity of a destination. That would be achieved only if that would be the result of the spatial and urban planning. Now we have a spatial and urban planning that was established and drops due to legality by the Constitutional Court. So, then we have some local eminent personalities or elected people who decide what is feasible, what is not feasible. The thing is that there's not a unique way of treating things. You mentioned water and water shortage, but we also need to take into consideration climate change. So how tourism sees its future in Greece, given the conditions that will prevail in 10 or 15 years, according to what scientists tell us?
I believe that we're going to see a change in the pattern. Probably during the summer months, due to the high temperatures, we might see some decrease, maybe in some categories of tourism near the seashore, for example. On the other hand, we can see the shoulder months rising, where the climate is more friendly, to put it this way. Furthermore, some years ago, we had conducted a survey with the Academy of Athens, and we saw that on the mountains, there are destinations which actually are very friendly during the summer. So I believe that we are going to see a reorientation of the destination planning, and it is important to see how we are going to set a strategy in order to further exploit the brand name of the country, plus the billions of investments here. Let me add something more, that despite the thoughts that it's going to be cool and nice on the mountains, the truth is that the brand name of the country is described by sun and sea. And of course, we are the third power in tourism, in such tourism in the future. There is another thought, though, that schools might go for vacations during the winter months. But again, no such plans have been realized. So the traditional routine of summer holidays is here to stay. We need to see how we can improve the relevant routines. Of course, we need to see how we can improve the air conditioning of spaces, for example, or provide protection from the rise of the sea surface or from wildfires during the summer. This is a really difficult exercise that cannot be dealt by individuals or small communities. So it is obvious that we need a national strategy here. Until recently, we believe that we are the most lucky nation in the world. It is true, but it seems that the Mediterranean now is under the threat of many adverse weather conditions. So we need to take this into consideration, and we need to protect the destinations, not the businesses, but the destinations, because it is not only the hotels or restaurants that are threatened, but the communities, the villages are threatened. Let me go back to what you said before. If we shift the model a bit, and do we have any plan B instead of the islands? My suggestion would be that we would have a larger and enlarged season, so that we won't focus our tourism in just 20 days in the summer, but we'll have a longer season, touristic season. This is a very critical question, and it has to be answered because the islands, in today's global working allocation, have no many alternatives except for tourism. So, in other words, in order to keep the social cohesion and community cohesion on the islands, we need to foster touristic businesses. If we lost that, we would have a very adverse impact on the local cohesion. But wouldn't this lead to some fake landscapes, fake ways of life on the islands? They will become actually a scenery for tourists and without having a local character because they do not have any other production. But tourism is their only business. So how will they develop their own local identity? Indeed, this is a concern, especially for these destinations that had other types of production and left it behind in favor of tourism. But I think that many of the islands did not have any production whatsoever. So in these cases, we can utilize the touristic businesses in order to enhance local cohesion. This is a positive impact of tourism to these destinations. When we speak about the change of touristic model or the productive model, in this case, we should introduce the dimension of tourism as a multiplier of social cohesion, because it can be an attractor for other types of productions. We have seen this in some areas. Especially in the last 4 or 5 years, we have seen a relation of tourism with the primary sector, and production has flourished in areas where it was close to zero before. So we see some people spontaneously developing the ambition to improve the productivity in our locality, in their locality. I have to say that we do not have much time, So thank you so much for your intervention.
Νομίζω ότι έχουμε αρχίσει σιγά σιγά και μπαίνουμε.
I think that the discussion is now live. We are hearing words like bearing capacity, legislation, strategy, tactics, urban planning, reactions. And of course, that's the point of today's event. We want to have an open discussion where all the issues can be said and where we can see how to reach a consensus. Because without a consensus, all those who disagree will always create complaints and problems. We are now entering another part of our event where we'll have the subject of perspectives and challenges of tourism in Greece. We have distinguished guests. I'm going to give them their names. Mr. Eftichios Vasilakis from Aegean, who is our host for today. Mr. Panagiotis Dikeos, CEO of Attica Group. Mr. Alexander Tsinel, CEO of Fraport Greece. Mr. Christos Megalou, CEO of Piraeus Bank. And Mr. Marios Psaltis, CEO of PwC Greece. And of course, Mr. Ilias Bellos, journalist from eKathimerini, who is going to be the moderator of this panel.
Ευχαριστούμε πάρα πολύ που ήρθατε σήμερα μαζί μας.
Thank you so much for being with us tonight, this evening. Thank you for supporting us in this initiative, since you represent the 5 major industries, businesses in tourism, and you invest in tourism as well. You do that because you would like Greece, seeing Greece developing. Let me start with Mr. Vasilakis, CEO of Aegean, who is our host today. A very important investment made in Greece is the training center for pilots, for technicians, etc. What about this project of yours? This investment, along with the investments of all other panelists, show that you want to provide solutions to all the issues that we have pinpointed in the previous sections. Let me give the floor to Mr. Vasilakis. Good afternoon, welcome. Already we have spoken about investments. I would like to say that I'm very happy because this hangar was inert for years. It was isolated, but we set up a very good team, the Aegean team under Mr. Gerogiannis, who is not here today, but I would like to thank him for what he did. And now we want to attract people who are going to come here to be trained, and this way we will provide a higher value added in the logistics and education industry of our country. Regarding the subject of our conversation here, I would say that tourism in the last few years was exactly the spearhead for Greece. So we wanted to continue achieving high numbers for the years to come. So the question is, how do we ensure development and employment at the same time safeguarding the footprint that we leave behind for the next generations? So let me give the floor to the other panelists. Okay, Mr. Panos Dikeos from Attica Group, one of the biggest ship companies in the world and in Greece, of course. You have a major challenge to resolve as regards reducing CO2 emissions, and also because you still utilize technologies which had been made in previous eras. Good afternoon, and thank you so much for the invitation, and we thank Aegean for hosting us in this very impressive hangar. Let me say a few things about the maritime industry and shipping as a critical infrastructure for Greece. The Greek shipping is 18% of the pan-European logistics in a country which is 2% of the population of Europe. Second, as regards the shipping contribution to the national economy, it's 11.8 billion, which is 5.4% of the GDP. I think that 60% of these number is contributed by the commercial fleets transporting tourists to the islands during the summer. So shipping is an important industry. It connects the islands to the mainland for 365 days per year. Offers, of course, cargo and logistics services. All the supply chain of tourism industry is supported by ships and, of course, passengers during the summer periods of tourists. Also, the aviation fleets are the ambassadors of our touristic product, the first and the last experience of tourists when they visit our country. This is important because it sets the tone for the tourist experience and their memories when they leave. These are the major challenges. On the one hand, the renewal of our fleet, because our ships are rather old. In 2030, the average age is 36 years. On the other hand, we have a very strict framework by IMO and the European Union for the upgrade of shipping. So these two regulations will lead us to an upgrade of our shipping fleets, which needs approximately 3 billion until 2030. Of course, this cannot happen overnight. We have started 5 years ago. We have an expert team inside our ADCA group. We have set the coal map, decarbonization map for a 10-year period, and we have started already working. Investments are important. The green transition of investments is important. As we saw in the survey, Greeks expect a greener, a more protective tourist industry. Let me say that we have 3 ships with carbon fibers which were built in Norway, and since 2022 we launched them in the Argos-Saronic Gulf. In their first year, the whole market of the Argos-Saronic Gulf it was increased by 20%. This kind of private company invest to tackle such a major challenge. Do we have other examples from other countries? For example, Italy. Especially in the shipping industry, which is capital-intensive industry, do you have any strategy or any planning which is successful? Allow me to say that major changes need consensus and cooperations. One body alone, one entity alone cannot realize the transition, no matter whether this is a public body or other types of stakeholders, no matter how powerful. And the energy transition, which amounts to trillions in Europe, the transition in the country's infrastructures cannot happen by individual initiatives. We need to have concerted action. We'll come back to that. And now I would like to ask Mr. Zinel.
Fraport Greece that manages the 14 regional airports. It has been pretty much a success story, the privatization of the previously obsolete infrastructures in these regional offices. And I know you've already, your parent company has already expressed interest in furthering their footprint in Greece. Still, there are challenges. Would you like to enlighten us about things that you see that should be furthered and how to do it?
Yes, first of all, thank you for this excellent initiative here, eKathimerini, to put together the tourism players to reimagine tourism. I think we have reached an important threshold. Just to give you an example, from the last year where the airports were managed by the Hellenic Civil Aviation Authority until now, we have added 10 million passengers at our airports. That's a 42% growth. And this would not have been possible without the pull factor of Greece as a touristic destination. There's no doubt, we are a touristic company. We rely on tourism and rely on tourists coming to Greece. What we see now is that we have delivered what we were asked by previous governments to do. That is, bring investment, create jobs, and bring tourists. Now we are actually almost 10 years ahead of our original schedule. We will be reaching about 36 million passengers this year, and we were planning to do this in the year 2033 originally. So it's a tremendous success story in terms of what we delivered and what we've seen, but we now see the ache of the huge number and the speed of growth. And I think it has been addressed previously by Mr. Retsos. We need to invest in infrastructure. The touristic product works very well in Greece. It is a destination for many people around the world. I think we have not even seen yet, we haven't seen Chinese coming back in large numbers, and there's lots of them. So if they decide one day to really start traveling to Greece, I think we haven't even seen the beginning yet. So what we need to do now is to build a foundation for this product to develop further and to determine, I guess as a country and as all the players together, where we want to go. And this needs, from our side, and that's I think the big challenge, it needs more investment in infrastructure in general. It's nothing, it's not a new insight. We can even see it here in Athens. There's a lot of need for infrastructure to manage traffic. We understand as well that for now water supply is working, but maybe not in 3 years or 4 years from now when climate changes. So there's a lot of, these are for me the main challenges. The product is fine, but the challenges lie, from my perspective, in infrastructure. It's all been said: road, energy, water, wastewater, waste management. These are the things that we need to do, and we see that at all our destinations, this is where we need to catch up and to build the foundation for more growth and the future of tourism in Greece.
Have you seen the municipalities, the local authorities in the regions that you are stationed, your 14 airports, are they able to study and mature projects that are needed for the infrastructure? And I'm not talking only about the airport per se, but also, you know, for the road from the airport to the hotel, as you once described to me.
I think they're struggling, to be honest. I don't know if it's a lack of money or the capacity. I know that many municipalities for the past 10, 15 years have been deprived of their own spending capacity, but it's not only the money. You need the people to drive projects. You need the capacity to do planning, to do studies, to build, to put projects and to deliver infrastructure projects in reality. And this is where I see that many municipalities struggle in effectively doing that. This is not only a trademark or a fact here in Greece. It's the same is happening in Germany. There is a huge need for infrastructure renovation, but the public sector is struggling in delivering this.
Thank you. We will return. Κύριε Μεγάλου, ο Διευθύνων Σύμβουλος Πειραιώς.
Mr. Megalou from Piraeus Bank. Your bank has invested heavily in significant projects that are connected to tourism. So, on your part, you can see some challenges. In the previous discussion, we spoke about investments, so banks have to enter the game here. So, from your point of view, which are the challenges and the priorities? Thank you very much for the invitation, and I would like to thank the organizers of this event. This was a very nice idea to have this event here in this hangar. It is my first visit here. We haven't paid yet for the premises for this event. Anyway, this is a very inspiring place. Let me start by going a bit backwards in order to describe the big picture. In Greece, despite the efforts that have been made, we have a major investment deficit. For years, we haven't invested. Investments, of course, are here. Due to the crisis, investments were stalled. After the crisis, we have important incomers to the country, but nevertheless, we have a big gap to cover. The deficit in Greece amounts to high numbers. We have approximately 14% of the GDP as investments, while in the average in the European Union is 22 to 24%. So we have this need for investments. In order to cover this investment gap, we need approximately 370 billion in the next 10 years. So we understand that what is at stake here is really challenging. On the one hand, the stakes are high. On the other hand, the industries with comparative advantage that would give us the opportunities for investments and would give us a contribution to the GDP of the country, these are the industries that have to be supported. One such industry, sine qua non, is tourism. As Mr. Retsos said, we have 26 billion until now. I understand that this is the currency from tourism into the country. We would say that we can reach 14% of the GDP, showing that this industry has to be further strengthened, and we need to continue investing. As a financial institution, we need to be able to finance. And of course, we need to invest on sound and profitable businesses, because we cannot take any heavy risks, as we have had some serious problems in the past with the red loans. At the moment, for example, Piraeus Bank, in its portfolio, has approximately 15%, which is invested on financing touristic projects. We do not have any new bad loans, and this is important because this shows that our investment is based on a healthy profitability. Of course, there are some challenges, but nevertheless, this funding contributes to the GDP growth. Beyond any doubt, we have interesting plans ahead. There are funds for investments and financings. The banks have the capability in order to finance working capital and equipment in the hospitality sector, as we have seen that in this sector we can have high profits. We do have liquidity, we do have the will to invest, we have business plans. I heard Mr. Zina saying that he gave us a very positive message regarding our position in relation to other countries. But let's come now to see the challenge, which is investing on infrastructures. Infrastructures are the dimension, the aspect that will determine the success of the country in this area. So we need to focus on a more centralized planning, a strategic plan for infrastructures, as Mr. Rechers mentioned. So we could try further in order to cover the small issues that rise up. As we saw in the survey, it is the small things that we have to care for in the beginning so that they do not become larger. What about this planning that you mentioned? Could this be privatizations, motivations for investments, or would it be a better institutional framework? Or should the state take up some initiatives? And also, let me ask, are the local communities capable of undertaking the necessary action in order to operate their ports, their airports? Do you believe that they are mature to undertake such responsibilities? Mr. Bellos, we have in the panel a living example of the success of the private sector. I am mentioning Fraport, which is the good example of regional airports. When the agreement was established, the country was going through a very critical period, and to their credit, Fraport managed to conclude this investment, and it's a very good example, an example to imitate. And it is indeed very moving to hear Mr. Zimmel saying how this effort was successful. And we can feel that whenever we visit the regional airports. I visited Corfu and Mytilene this year, and my experience was indeed very satisfying. The upgrade is obvious. So we have a living example where the private sector became partner of the state. This is a very successful investment. public and private partnerships can also be a model to continue this success. And we believe that we have the capacity to further and support all those healthy investments that can contribute to the country. Thank you. We also have Mr. Marios Psaltis, CEO of the PwC. You have worked with tourism a lot, and tomorrow you are going to present a solution that codifies the answers to all these challenges mentioned. Could you just summarize the various suggestions that we could make for the challenges that we mentioned? Thank you again for this invitation. I think that we have already touched upon many issues. I am going to summarize what I'm going to elaborate on tomorrow. It is a fact that tourism was a driver for the development of the national economy after the crisis, especially after the pandemic. As Mr. Retsos said, the lack of a strategic plan and with the increase of the tourist flows showed and highlighted the challenges that we have in various areas in Greece. So what is important today is that we find and promote the solutions so that we can promote a sustainable touristic model. Tomorrow we're going to show the various recommendations that we make, but today I'm going to focus on two basic things. We heard a lot of things about infrastructures and about the upgrade of the human capital as well. By dealing with these two challenges, we can touch upon the solutions to the issues of the country. So starting with infrastructure, as we saw in the Pulse survey, because all Greek citizens understand that that tourism is important for the Greek economy, but of course they are very skeptical regarding excessive tourism. But we need to record the characteristics of both the touristic and the excessive touristic product. It is a fact that we attract a lot of tourists in a very short time period throughout the year, and they go to very specific areas, very specific destinations. That's why we have the challenges in these areas. So the problem would be that tourists might have negative experiences, so they could criticize the country as a whole in forums, for example, or their friends, or we would have local problems to the local communities due to the overburden with illegal building, with scarce water resources. But it is important to promote investments. During the crisis, we didn't have any investments here at all. In 2021, SETE highlighted 700 actions that could help out tourism. Tomorrow in our presentation, we are going to show that we have now more than 50 projects in progress, amounting to more than 20 billion euros. This shows that we have started thinking about solutions, but of course there are many more to do. Beyond the obvious, which is investing on harbors, airports, roads, etc., or the connection in between utilities and tourist destinations, another challenge is the health system. The health system has to be improved so that we can help both the local communities and the tourists in the case of a challenge. Furthermore, we have some opportunities to focus on sustainability. So we want viable investments that will consider water management, waste management, landscape protection, environment protection, renewable energy sources, encouragement of electricity for transports. And I believe that this will give us answers to other challenges like the climate change, which is not a local phenomenon, but a global phenomenon. But nevertheless, with the sustainable investments, we give answers to the questions for the next generations, which is sustainability. Tomorrow, we'll hear more proposals as for how we can extend the touristic period with some new experiences by providing alternative destinations. As regards human capital, we do not have enough people, expert people. There are some surveys saying that we have 20% deficit in human capital in this sector, but again, the record is not precise. The answers here are not easy. I believe that investing in training is important. So the academy is going to help that. But also we need a national strategy. Again, here, in order to increase both in quality and in quantity the knowledge and skills of people who work in tourism. Nowadays, we have heard a lot about the problem of accommodation for the people who work in tourism, or the living conditions or the working conditions of the people working in the tourism sector. So we believe that we have to provide better solutions here, drivers, motives, and maybe better salaries to these people. So I think that we have to pinpoint these matters. But of course, we need central planning for this. There are some companies that invest in employees. Fraport, Attica, they do so. But is it enough to be based on private initiatives? Yes, you're right. The private companies, according to their plans and their character, they have their own projects. But in order to be able to give a major solution to this major problem, we need a national strategy to provide short-term and long-term solutions, considering all the long-term human capital, expert human capital that we will need for our sustainable tourism. It's important to mention here that the seasonality of this profession is not so attractive for young generations. So we need to see how we can make it attractive for them. Let's go back to our host, Mr. Vasilakis. Because in the beginning, he did not speak at all. Yes, I wanted to be inspired by the other panelists. Okay, the floor to you now.
I think that infrastructures, especially tourist infrastructures, is something that we like talking about. I believe that infrastructure is what we have to have in order to live better in Greece and to receive tourists as well. It's the same infrastructure, and we have two kinds. Infrastructures that are hard, heavy, we build, and then soft, which are people and how the state operates, whether it is the regulating or the supportive environment. I think that we have a bigger problem in the soft infrastructure that has to do with the organization and how the public state and the public administration works. We cannot, of course, improve everything, monitoring how employers behave, for example, supporting health or other parts. So whether we talk about waste management or spatial planning, we need to have the state being there, controlling. We must have meritocracy, assessment in the public sector. All this is important for tourism, and not only tourism, but it's for the operation of the Greek state. And I think this is the part that is lagging behind. When it comes to the digital part, it's been doing great. That is substituting people, but we can't do everything with privatizations and digitalization. A hard core of the public administration must operate, incentivizing people to do their job. Apart from money, we have the limitation that in Greece for 12 or 14 years has never constructed anything, has never built anything. If there is still some capacity of construction, the only sector of investment was in 2011, 12, 13, and only due to projects of hotels. It's the only thing that was built. So tourism supported construction, and these constructions do not suffice in capacities in order to cover both the lack of infrastructure and the investment gap. We need some prioritization, we need a better operation of the public sector in order for it to play a role, an important role, and cover first the biggest shortages of hard infrastructure, whether, I don't know, that is ports or waste or roads. The third thing is that since we start having a problem in managing any footprint of development, and I say so because if that was industrial development or if it was logistics development, any business activity in any area, then we would have problems degrading and burdening the environment due to that activity. Tourism is same kind. I think that it is development that needs to be managed in order not to have a problem with a footprint, with history, with a community being a mirror of itself, a reflection of itself, or if it is really itself. So we need to change the viewpoints of the local communities. If some of the money received goes directly to communities and municipalities, and it is true that having many budgets to manage is more difficult than having just one. But if you see that there might be a conflict or diversification in priorities, etc., you cannot afford not to have a flow that enhances the possibility of local governments to function and feel that they are aligned with the budget and their capacities. Tourism the budgets between the central state and the local governments may have a direct and more aligned relations. I'm sure, I am certain that the numbers, the size of tourism and its contribution in the economy, whether that is 0.25 and becoming 0.50, is not the only case that should concern us. We must have a public administration that controls and supports everyone to have a more direct relation with local infrastructure, local needs, because through an investments from the taxes paid can give more balance to this relation. Okay, so transparency, maturity about what to do. I'm trying to summarize a little bit. That means some central initiative on behalf of the government. We have done very well in many occasions, and we can have more tourism extended in more periods. We can even have more people, but we need some things from the central government to work better. Yes, though I have to say that we didn't say much about the fact that part of tourism is also the extension of residential secondary houses, secondary residences. This happens because due to the demographics, we have invested a lot of aspirations. We have a lot of remote work in order to attract the young people in Greece, and this is not a tourist. Well, it's not that we try to attract through tourists young people that would come and help us with the work shortage, but I'm talking about the nomads, digital nomads. What about Greek tourists that go to islands, spend money on the hotels? There is a research, it shows that there is some concern there as well. I know that we don't have much time. The bell will ring, so reverse now. Are you optimistic, pessimistic, and why, Mr. Psaltis? In which sense something will be done in the private sector with the efforts of SETE and isolated businesses and initiatives like the one of eKathimerini needs to make us understand that there is a need of a strategic plan to the right direction. I'm optimistic because today we're talking about the problems. Many things have been done. I think that Greece as a brand name is significant abroad. We need to take into consideration what Mr. Vasilakis said. It is very significant. I will add, when it comes to secondary houses, how we can bring foreign people in Greece. I think that we can also have some English-speaking universities that can add to our demographics as well as retired people. I'm optimistic that we can move forward and have a better day for tourism. Just by having this conversation and listening to all these very interesting things, some thoughts about the future that can become activities at some point, only that makes me optimistic already. We have the resources, we need the strategy. What is interesting is that we have a lot correct business people and a good private sector where we can, to whom we can lean in order to fund this development. Mr. Tinel?
First of all, I've seen how the country has recovered since I came here in 2016, and that it is driving many in many areas. You addressed digitization, where it is, I think, light years ahead of Germany, for example. I've seen Greeks as very hardworking, very innovative, and very pragmatic in addressing problems. So I think the issues that we see now and that we have discussed today, I think they will be addressed with the right mindset and the right focus. I think it will be, we will manage. And in terms of tourism, the only thing that is holding us back right now in terms of growth is the lack of aircraft. The problems with engines, I don't know if that's one, and air traffic control capacity in Europe and also in Greece. So these are factors that are actually limiting our growth right now. If that wasn't in place, we would actually see even more tourists coming to our airport. So I'm very positive.
Thank you.
I am also very optimistic because I do believe that the private sector knows what to do. It has been planned already. I see the cluster. I see that we coordinate ourselves. We are all here today talking about this issue, and this is important. It's important to see that all the axes of the strategy have been agreed upon with the ministry, and we all try to see how to revive the coastal lines and port infrastructure. We're not happy with what we have, but strategic axes are there, are set. We need to implement. Thank you. Okay, I think the moderator has to close this discussion. Okay, we have listed companies. We need to be optimistic all the time, so we are optimistic. Only some small challenges are to be dealt with. Being serious now, I'm concerned that we need to see very quickly some the public administration trying to manage development in the right way in all sectors, not just tourism, by implementing the laws, by having a balance between the benefits and the footprint of tourism. But if you say, if we discuss, I'm sure that means improvement. Thank you very much for this very interesting conversation. I think we even earned 14 seconds.
Νομίζω ήταν μια πολύ παραγωγική.
I believe that this was a very productive meeting. Infrastructure. I think Mr. Vasilakis also said something important. Infrastructure is not just a built environment, it's also software, not just a hardware. How we can be trained, how our behavior can deal with the challenges. We only have 10 minutes for you to have a coffee break within the room as you go to your right. The Prime Minister is on his way, so we have to be seated before he comes in. We'd like to welcome Mr. Stylianidis as well. Thank you.